Do you have a subject matter that's kind of interest to you that you want to chat about? Not that we'll stick to it either, but just kind of a little theme for the conversation.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm doing a lot of men's work these days. Right. So for me, and what I recognize in a lot of men is that there's a way that society kind of deems the way we're supposed to show up in the world, or dictates that. And oftentimes that doesn't completely align with each individual man. And I know it didn't for me. So yeah, it's like, it's trying to reconcile that difference. And how can each individual man be, really accept who they are and still be part of society and be that in society, even when society sometimes dictates something else.
What is it that society, some of the things that you're seeing society dictating? Like, were there certain points that really hit home for you?
I mean, the biggest thing I think for me was the lack of emotional intelligence. The lack of being in touch. So for me, it was so much intellectual. It was important to be intellectual. It was important to be solid and strong and unwavering, and for me there was also a lot of selflessness, a sense of having to give myself to be worthy, to be a man. Like that felt like it was somehow so important. And I know that for me that the majority of that came from my father. He modeled like this selfless male, and strong and kind of silent, not really sharing his emotions, kind of this solid rock of the family. And while that was so important in some ways for my development, it also showed me that parts of me being, I'm a pretty sensitive man, from what I identify as far as emotions, and like I can hide in my intellectuality from that experience, because it can be so overwhelming.
Oh, okay.
For me, and I did for so very long, and kind of followed what he was dictating. But at the same time, I had all this internal kind of shame and like, this is not right for me. I'm experiencing this, but it's not okay to be this way in the world.
Yeah.
Which was really draining on me, and eventually, it led to drug abuse and abuse of my health, and a long stint of my life kind of numbing out.
My father, I've always thought that he's one of the most emotionally sensitive people, but he would never admit it.
Yeah.
He's just convinced himself that any sort of feeling is a detriment to his abilities. You know what I mean? It's like just getting in the way.
Right.
And so, but it's translated into him being, I think his whole life, really emotionally immature. Because it's not that he's not getting affected by those emotions.
Yeah.
He's just pretending like they're not there. So instead of addressing them, he'll just lash out or something like that. You know?
Yeah. It's like this part has never had a chance to be in the world, never a chance to just have some space, so then it can actually mature.
Can you tell me a little bit about like what is the journey that you went on in terms of the development process for yourself?
Yeah, I almost should start back in the addiction stuff, because that was the beginning for me, and I got stuck in that cycle for like 8 years. I was doing that. And then after a long time of really wanting to stop what I was doing, but not really knowing how to integrate. Like, first of all, I was addicted, and even in the moments when I was able to stop and get clean, like, I was still here. The underlying problem was still.
Yeah.
was still inside of me. This dissonance between what I thought I had to be and what I was. And so eventually, like the final straw broke the camel's back, as they say, and I broke down and went to rehab and lived in a sober living facility for like a year. And then like through 12-step programs that were required, I really started to learn about myself, because a lot of that process is like taking self-inventory. And I kind of shied away from the 12-step stuff after maybe 2 years of doing that, because I felt like it was a little bit too focused on addiction and recovery. Like I was wanting more. I was wanting like this holistic kind of human evolution in myself.
Do you believe in that idea? I heard someone say this. I think it might have been on the new Trainspotting, where he says if you're an addict, you should just accept that you're an addict and like let yourself be addicted to something that's good for you, or what, choose what you want to be addicted to, and but not fight the fact that that's just an ingrained personality aspect, an addictive personality.
Yeah, I think there's a certain truth to that. Like even in who I am today, like I'm addicted to healthy behavior, like eating really well. I'm addicted to like authentic connection kind of stuff. And and there's a way that I seek it and crave it the same way. And I also identified that being like, I think there's a certain acceptance required in that, and I also find in myself there's a resistance to that. Like I'm continuously wanting to resist the addiction, and like there's been stages in my life of like first giving up drugs, and then cigarettes, and then coffee, and then sugar, and it's like I'm just trying my best to run from this addiction, this phenomenon that's in me. And that's become kind of an addiction. The running has kind of evolved into an addiction. I think there is some truth to that, just really kind of accepting that addiction is part of, I want to say it's part of most people's lives in some degree. And it's just whether or not that addiction is serving you or not serving you. Last night I had a completely different kind of dream. I had some kind of ability where I could move quickly, and somehow that was really attractive to like everybody. I was like a rock star, kind of like I was well known, and like everybody knew I could do this, and like I was really well liked, and I ended up in the dream, and I almost never have dreams where I'm sleeping with women. But in this dream, I slept with two different women. Like one woman I slept with, and then like when I was like leaving her house, like another woman I ran into that like worked for her, and she wanted to sleep with me, and so I ended up sleeping her.
Because you were like so quick, they were like, "Oh my God, you're so fast." It's.
I don't know. No, I think I was able to slow down for that, because I vividly remember the whole process.